How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the Young Turks and their predictions for the Republican Party going forward into the near future. In the primary elections and the next presidential election, they're basically saying that Trump has ruined the party. They won't be able to gain it back anytime soon. All the angry white men are not really going to be able to go forward. That's not how the country is going. All this, that, and the third. They also talked about the alt-right, the political YouTubers trying to indoctrinate people for Patreon dollars and whatnot. Before I get too deep into what they said and my personal reaction, what I'm going to do right now is roll the clip. Now, in this particular clip, there may be a little bit of profanity, so warning on that. But I think the main guy speaking is John Iadarola. If I butchered his name, I'm sorry. But he was talking about some things relating to online personalities happen to be conservative. I guess guys like me, maybe I don't count because I'm black, but we'll talk about that after we get done with the clip. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
And that's what's so interesting about these, like the media figures or the right-wing YouTubers and stuff like that that are indoctrinating young either conservatives or young potential conservatives, turning them into the alt-right and that sort of stuff, is that they're creating enough friction that it will make it harder for the Republican Party in the future to make that shift. Because you don't just have the old racist whites who would have died off in an election or two. Now you have a bigger than necessary chunk of younger conservatives who are gonna act like 70-year-old Republicans. And that is gonna create, I think, some difficulties in turning maneuvering the ship for the Republican Party. So those right wingers they're just trying to make Patreon dollars and they're trying to get clicks on their blog posts and stuff like that. They are screwing over the future of their movement in the same way, ironically, that they're screwing over all of the rest of us right now.
That's not what they say on CRTV.
No.
Look, I'll make a bold prediction on that. I think that a lot of those alt-right guys are gonna grow up like the hippies of the past on the left and are gonna get real jobs as accountants. Be like, yeah, that was awkward how I wrote those blog posts about how black people are inferior. I hope nobody catches that, right? And so I think that they're gonna get washed out by time a little bit. I mean, already when they go to Charlottesville, et cetera, they lose their jobs. And when they try to redo Charlottesville, even the Daily Stormer or Daily Front or Stormfront or whatever they're called was like, don't go, you could kind of lose your job. Wait, I thought you guys were tough guy Nazis, right?
Proud Boys.
Yeah,
Proud Boys.
Proud Boys.
Aren't you proud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they go to try to get real jobs in the world, then they're not gonna be so proud.
And online alt-right, the age range is very specific. It is not an expansive thing. I mean, you do have like the QAnon folks. They tend to be much older, traditional Republicans, but the alt-right tends to be white males between like 18 and 26, basically.
Yeah.
And then that's about it.
And it's not, this is a little anecdotal, but I've also seen a number of them come out later and go, yeah, I was 15, man. I thought we were having fun. And God, I said really hateful things and I really regret it. So my guess that's gonna happen to a lot of them. Because it's because that movement is so incredibly immature. Yeah. Instead of having a nuanced, sophisticated way of thinking about the world, there's politics, there's history, there's geography, there's socioeconomic conditions, and you have to consider them all at once, and it's a complicated matrix. They're like, no, me no, it's race, black bad, Latino bad, Muslim bad, me good, white good, male good, women won't have sex with me, they bad, right? Like, at some point, you begin to I think that even for a lot of them, they begin to realize, maybe that wasn't as sophisticated as I thought it was.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you saw that, you see what's going on. Now, this whole exchange was crazy. There's a much longer video. It's not that long, but it's just longer than what I showed you. I'll place the entire thing in the box below if you want to check it out for yourself in full context. But throughout the whole thing, they were trying to say how the Republican Party, a bunch of angry old white men, or these young bloggers who behave like old angry white men, which doesn't make any sense. But they're saying that if they keep going down that road, they're not really going to be able to succeed. They're also talking about trying to get campaign money out of the election process. I'm not really sure how that's going to work. They talk about being able to have more money than us, but during the 2016 campaign, obviously it didn't work. Hillary Clinton had $1.3 billion compared to Donald Trump's right around $750 million. It didn't work. It was not enough. They talked about how he didn't win the popular vote. He did win the electoral college, and that's all that really matters. But to get back on track here, the main thing I want to center on is this guy, John, talking about the conservative people who are just trying to get Patreon dollars, or just trying to get clicks or whatever. According to y'all, according to your man, Jank, you guys have more money, so shouldn't I go over there to TYT? I mean, I don't see a conservative show on YouTube anymore, at least ever since they took Alex Jones out. I don't see any other conservative show on YouTube that is as polished as what I see over at TYT. Not as far as like a daily thing. Matter of fact, I turned on my YouTube TV, which is a separate service that I pay for, just like a cable TV subscription. But I saw TYT listed in the TV stations. I don't see anything else conservative listed in the TV stations. So you guys have the money. You guys have the big media machines backing you. You have the mainstream media backing you. You have Hollywood, all that kind of stuff backing you, but it's still not enough. So I think maybe it's your message. It's not really clicking with people. Maybe the people who are coming over to my side and coming over to other people's side, you're talking about the CRTV people, Steven Crowder, Mark Levin, all these people are getting more traction on their side because people want to hear from them, or maybe they don't want to hear from the left because they have become so crazy. Talking about LGBT stuff in kindergarten. I remember I told a young lady that she shouldn't be lining herself up with the Democratic Party because look at what they're doing when you're talking about kids. And this time it was in high school because they were bringing out sex ed stuff that was a little bit too graphic positions. And I was like, wait a minute. You'll see in a short period of time, they're going to bring that same inappropriate stuff that they have in late middle school, early high school to very small kids, elementary school. Didn't believe it would happen. Thought I was just being paranoid. But here we are just a year or so later, maybe about 2 or 3 years later, and you having PTA meetings filled with parents who are furious about their very small children, kindergartners coming home crying because they think they may turn into a boy based upon a gender reveal in the class. One of the little boys or girls or whatever came out as a different gender than what they came into the classroom as. All right. There's no reason for a small child to be worried about gender identity, but here we are. People said it wouldn't happen, but obviously they were wrong, which is why the Democrats are starting to lose steam. I think in this whole piece, they were trying to psych themselves up because they know they don't really have anybody coming up in 2020 to run against Trump or against whoever else wants to run. Like when Trump runs 2020 and he wins, in 2024, who are they going to have? They're trying to groom Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, but they both have demons in their closet, skeletons in their closet. They're not really likable. If you ask the average person out there that may vote in the Democratic Party, who are these people? They probably wouldn't know. They would know Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, etc., more than they would know both of them. But yet, the Republican Party is full of old, angry white men. But you can't even get a white man younger than 74 years old to run for your party that anybody will vote for. I don't understand how that makes any sense. But getting back to what John Aradola said, talking about, they're trying to get clicks, they're trying to get Patreon money. Like I said, you guys say you have more money. At the end of the day, we're just being ourselves. We're not indoctrinating anybody. That's the wrong way to even look at it, because if you look at us on YouTube as indoctrinators, you got to be the same way, TYT, and the other people that kind of, orbit around you, your Minority Reports, all the kind of people. You guys have your point of view and you talk about it all the time. That's fine. If people like that liberal leftist stuff, they can go to you and then they can check you out. And if they like what I talk about, if they like what Steven Crowder talks about, if they like what Stefan Molyneux and a lot of the other popular so-called right-wingers talk about, then they're going to go to them. And people that you call right-wingers aren't necessarily that. I've seen some of you guys call Milo a right-winger. Milo is not a right-winger. Milo is more of an edgy liberal, kind of a centrist when you're talking about actual policies. And guys like Jordan Peterson is not even really political at all. He speaks more from a psychological standpoint. He's just trying to improve people and their behavior. He's not out here campaigning for people, endorsing candidates. That's not what he does. But because he does not parrot the liberal narrative, that automatically makes them some kind of crazy right-wing Nazi or whatever. Then you guys want to bring up Charlottesville and Unite the Right Part 2. It may have been all the 10 guys that came to the Unite the Right Part 2 to be on the side of the so-called white supremacists, and there was a black man there. Their little shindig they had was totally overshadowed by all the so-called counter-protesters. And to call them counter-protesters is really misleading, because if you got 10 guys versus 10,000 people, or however many there were, that's not necessarily a counter-protest. That is a rally in itself with some other guys that have a rally at the same time. You know, maybe you could call it a counter rally. It's not really a counter protest, but I digress. The whole point here is this: people like myself are going to exist. We have our viewpoints. If you want to say we're indoctrinating people, you got to say the same thing about yourself. And I think what we're really doing over here on the right is just allowing people to feel more comfortable to come out and be who they already are to begin with, right? You see me with my hat on. It's a lot of guys that are just like me that don't really want to come out, because some of your liberal friends, TYT, and others, they have scared a lot of us into hiding, right? A lot of black folks, Hispanics, or whatever, have scared those who do not think the same as them, because they don't want to be excommunicated from their family, from their particular society, from their jobs and whatnot. So they stay kind of low and out the way. That's how that usually goes. So it's not about indoctrination. It's just about having a platform where people feel comfortable and being able to speak how they actually feel. Most people on both sides are not really racist. You got a few small groups of people on both sides that are very vocal, get a lot of attention, and they paint both sides wrong. But I could tell you one thing: the small groups of people that exist on both sides have it's an imbalance between these two groups. There's more small groups on the left that are very vocal and hateful than there are small groups on the right that are very vocal and hateful, right? You're talking about the Unite the Right guys. It might have been 10 of these individuals in Washington, D.C. during that little rally thing they had. But on the other side, you got people, you know, just being crazy, destroying property, acting the fool. On the left, it's not that many of them, but it is much more percentage wise and, you know, representation wise on the other side. That's just kind of how it is. The average person, however, does not really fit into either one of these categories. But the average person looks at it the same way I look at it. They say, hey, wait a minute. Every time I turn on my television, it seems to be some kind of rally, protest, or whatnot. And a lot of the people seem to call themselves leftists, purport themselves to be for equal rights, for protecting people of color and whatnot, but they're steadily engaging in violence. On the right, I don't see as much of that. I'm not saying it's non-existent, but I don't see that much of it. So I'm going to kind of align myself over here if I want to be political at all. The average person is not really political. All they're doing is just trying to go to work every day, take care of themselves, take care of their children. That's usually how that goes, which makes sense. All right. Most people don't have that kind of time to be like myself or TYT or anybody else to really dig deep into these issues. They want to see a guy like myself talk about it. And if they're not awake yet, they go see TYT. That's how that is. So that's pretty much all I got to say. What do you think? Do you think that the TYT was right here, that the right will not be able to get themselves out of this bind they found themselves in as far as their ideological box? Do you think they're wrong? Do you think it's the other way around? How do you feel about the Electoral College? How do you feel about Donald Trump being the president right now and then winning again in 2020, and then 2024 you may have Mike Pence or whoever else? Who is a viable candidate on the left that is going to survive? I mean, because if Trump wins, which he will in 2020, who's going to be the next person up in 2024? They got to start building somebody right now, and time's a wasting. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.